Cuvier's gazelle. Threatened species, which often survive only in small, isolated populations, endure high levels of inbreeding, which can be very harmful. But close kinship isn't a universal phenomenon. There are species that tolerate it well, or even seek it out. This happens above all in species that reproduce through a harem system, in which one male mates with several females. Cuvier's gazelle, also known as the Edme, is endemic to North Africa, where until the mid-20th century, it was found throughout the mountain chains of Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. By the middle of the past century, poaching and habitat loss had pushed the species to the edge of extinction. Since 1975, various zoological institutions have collaborated in a captive breeding program at the Spanish National Research Council's facilities in the southeastern province of Almería. The captive population descends from just one male and 3 females, and so it sustains very high levels of consanguinity. Until recently, a successful reintroduction of Cuvier's gazelles had never been carried out before in their natural habitat. Critics maintained that the loss of genetic diversity associated with high levels of inbreeding greatly limited their chances to survive in the wild. But the Spanish researcher Eulalia Moreno was convinced that the captive gazelles were able to meet the challenge, and in 2014, preparations began. Tunisia was the country chosen to receive the gazelles because of its commitment to the species' recovery. Meticulous documentation was amassed regarding the species' distribution and the causes of its decline. The results allowed the researchers to winnow the candidate locations to host the project until they found the best one, Jebel Serj National Park. Its very well-preserved mountain ecosystem makes it ideal for the reintroduction of the species. In addition, Cuvier's gazelles lived in the area until the 1930s. In October of 2016, 43 gazelles, 12 males and 31 females, were transported to Tunisia to found the new population. Previously, they had been chosen through a painstaking selection process. They came from 2 centers that form part of the captive breeding program: the Spanish National Research Council's facilities in Almería and Oasis Park on Fuerteventura, one of the Canary Islands. The first phase of the project consisted of acclimating them to their new home. It was very important to keep them in different enclosures in order to be able to control their reproduction during the first few years. Apparently, the move was a success, as the gazelles calmly began to graze as soon as they arrived, showing no signs of stress. In May of 2017, when the Spanish researchers were already preparing for the trip to Serj to evaluate the results of the first year of the project, news arrived in Almería of the first birth. Over the next few days, news arrived of several more, even of the first birth of twins. Once in Serj, the team could hardly recognize the animals, as their physical condition was fantastic. Everyone involved in the project felt immense satisfaction. It seemed that the genes that had been preserved in the captive population were partially dormant, as it were, waiting to return to their habitat, where they now vigorously expressed themselves. When the first breeding period ended in the summer of 2017, 23 of the fawns had survived out of the total of 25 gazelles born. These results were spectacular. The fawn's extremely high birth and survival rates supported Dr. Eulalio Moreno's hypothesis and confirmed that the high level of kinship of the founding population hadn't been an impediment to obtaining individuals able to grow and mate successfully when they were returned to their habitat. In the following 2 years, the tendency was the same. Between 25 and 30 new births each year, and barely 15% mortality among the fawns. As a result, in the first 3 years, almost 100 Cuvier's gazelles had been born in Tunisia. Despite the high level of blood relationship among the individuals that founded this new population, the researchers haven't detected the most harmful effects of inbreeding. The gazelles have neither lost their ability to reproduce nor shown a high mortality rate among the fawns. The new genetic analyses carried out by Dr. Moreno's team have demonstrated that the time the animals were kept in captivity has allowed them to reach this point with a much better genetic makeup than expected, and with a formidable ability to adapt. In addition, a complete study of their genoma has shown that, in effect, the gazelles born in Tunisia are genetically more diverse than the founding adults that were brought from Almería and Fuerteventura. It seems very likely that the mating of individuals from those two locations, genetically isolated for more than a decade, has favored that diversity. With such positive results, in the autumn of 2019, the second and definitive phase of the reintroduction project was launched, and more than 30 Cuvier's gazelles were released in the environment of Jebel Serj National Park. After 3 years of acclimatization in the enclosures, they quickly integrated in their natural habitat, as evidenced by the fact that in just a few days they began to mark their territory with their characteristic latrines. The park's beetles also quickly came into play as soil fertilizers and seed spreaders. Other gazelles have remained in the enclosures, and their reproduction and subsequent release will make it possible to reinforce the free population when necessary. In the ensuing years, gazelles have been spotted with a certain frequency in the park and its environs. They still face many dangers, such as poaching, habitat destruction, or illnesses. But if the authorities continue to support them, the Cuvier's gazelles themselves will once again colonize the mountains and hills of the backbone of North